Hi, welcome. We are getting started with our Monday Mindset Moment, and today we're talking about some do's and don'ts around apologies. And the reason why we're doing this is because I have seen well-intending parents, well-intending kids take steps towards repair and just totally fall flat. And I think the reason why is because we don't really remember as adults what it's like to be in our feelings as a 3, 6, 9, even 12-year-old or 15-year-old, right? It's been a while. And we also can make some assumptions based on our own life experience about what a whole apology should look like. Another block could be that we didn't grow up with apologies. And so even as adults, we have a hard time with apologizing. So I'm going to just guide you through some do's and don'ts today that can support you in your journey of also working towards having a good repair process in your family. So this is one piece of the puzzle. All right. So here we go. When we want to teach our kids the art of a more sincere apology, we have to realize that it's a skill. It's not something that is only like natural to some people and not to others or something like that. It's actually a learned skill. It's like a social grace that children learn from the adults and other children in their environment. Now, empathy is an emotion or an experience of, feeling for or with somebody else that we are hardwired to have. However, it doesn't fully form cognitively until 7.5 on average. Some kids will show signs of it and abilities earlier. Some will have a little delay and it'll be a little later. But we would want that to see in our kids somewhere between the ages of like 6 and 9, this ability to really actually take perspective of another person, like put themselves in someone else's shoes. So be aware of that. It's really important because when you're asking a child to repair or to apologize, you have to really gauge it like our expectations and sort of temper them or match them to their developmental readiness. So for example, I had someone today ask me, should I make my 3-year-old apologize? And I said, well, the most important thing a 3-year-old needs is to see and connect the dots that they made an impact on this person and see the signs of that so that they can start to identify that care is needed of some kind and help them be a participant in taking care of the injured party. And perhaps an apology will come through that too, words like I'm sorry, or like a reparative hug, or maybe sharing a toy or sharing a treat, doing something that is kind and caring of the person, maybe getting them a Band-Aid or an ice pack if they got injured, for example. And then maybe even being present for the conversation about how it could go better next time. That would be a 3-year-old. Whereas a 12-year-old, we really want them to do some soul searching around like, why did I do that? What was my intention? And did that match my action? What do I need to own here, right? What kind of responsibility do I need to take? And how can I let this person know that I really have learned something from this, or I really have some road to travel in order to repair and restore trust and respect in this relationship. So they could see the big developmental difference there, right, between like 3 and 12. But here's some general advice. And so with that in mind, that caveat. So do teach empathy, no matter what age the child is. It's crucial for them to at least consider how the other person is feeling, put themselves in their shoes as much as possible. And again, if they're young, maybe just point out the evidence that somebody is having a bad time. Like her face is red and she has tears in her eyes. She was crying. She has an owie, right? Or he looks like he isn't very interested in playing anymore, right? Like those kinds of things. As a child gets older, you can start to say, well, how do you think it would feel if you were in that situation? Right. It wouldn't feel great, and you can talk through that. So do teach empathy. Help them use I statements, which goes in 2 directions. So focusing on the I keeps us out of blame. So we're not saying you this and you did that and sort of pointing fingers. It helps us to say, I own this, right? Like I did this, or I feel this way. It's also an opportunity for the person who was injured to express how, like what their experience was. Like, I felt scared when you came and pushed me because I didn't expect that. And I was wanting to just have a relaxing, fun time. And next thing you know, I'm falling over. That was really upsetting to me. And that's an I statement, right? So encourage them to take that responsibility, but also to share the impact that they've experienced. So oftentimes in a repair process, they're exchanging I statements. Okay. Do offer solutions or help your child think through solutions. Do ask them to basically find a way to fix their mistake or to repair the relationship or to make up for what they did. So that might be making an amend, or solving a problem with the person, maybe making a new agreement about how things are going to be different in the future. And then last but not least, really avoid anything that feels empty. So you do want to use a sincere tone yourself when you apologize. If that's not something that comes naturally to you, come over here, let's work on that, because it will really, really make a difference, what you show versus what you tell your kids to do. Because if you're not giving heartfelt, sincere apologies and yours are empty, your child is more likely to do the same and kind of copy you. Versus if you are really modeling that in the environment, I've seen that have a huge impact on kids. As a matter of fact, kids can learn 10 to 100 times more by what we show them and model for them than what we tell them to do. So keep that one in mind. And so sometimes then timing matters. A do is maybe wait till it's genuine. And also don't necessarily, again, demand the words, I'm sorry. That can be shown in a lot of different ways, more sincerely. I have a client who has 2 children, and it was probably around age 8 that his daughter was really still holding out and not wanting to say, I'm sorry. And it was really bothering him. It was bothering her older brother. And I said, look, let's not be forceful about the words, but let's make sure that there are other avenues of repair that show that she's sorry, but she doesn't have to say the words. Because for her, she had a high trigger and high sensitivity to anything that would make it seem like she was the bad guy. And she was really prone to shame and embarrassment, and would go down a spiral of like really being very negative towards herself. And it was just so painful for her to say the words, I'm sorry, that I said, just leave it alone for now. It'll come. And sure enough, we worked on this scaffolding for her into more greater and greater repair. She finally can say the words at least some of the time. After working on that, we had breakthroughs. In the meantime, though, her father and her brother embrace the ways that she would go way out of her way to fix things. Like she would change her behavior to improve the problem. She would do really nice things and make special treats and give them to them, and like make drawings and and gift them to them, and be super affectionate. And like all of that, in my mind, weighs even more strongly and more heavily than to the phrase of I'm sorry, right? And so those are the do's. I do have some don'ts. But before I do that, let's just say just roll through an example. So a child is playing with another child and is a little rough with their toy and breaks it. And the child starts to cry, and your child says, it was already messed up, or something, deflecting responsibility. So I would just say, oh, it looks like we need to chat about this, right? And just pull your kid aside so it's not too embarrassing in front of the other friend. I'm aiming at like 5 years old here, let's say. And just say, what happened? And like hear them out and say, well, here's what I saw. I saw that you were both excited to play with the toy, and then at some point you picked it up and you banged it and a piece fell off. And you can just make it just simple. Like that happens sometimes when we're too rough with toys. They can break. And just sort of matter of fact, right? And so what I want you to avoid, though, is saying it's your fault, or and then he or she might say, oh, it's not my fault, he made me do it. And you can just say, up, let's not go there. Sometimes these things happen and it's okay, but we do need to fix our mistakes and check in with our friends who's really sad. And then I would shift to the empathy. Take a look at his face. It looks like he's still pretty bummed and sad. What do you see? Yeah, I see that too. He has some tears on his cheeks still. He seems like maybe he's ready to talk, but we should probably check in and see. Okay, so that could be the empathy piece. Another thing you could say, well, what do you want? What if anything would you like to say to him about what happened? And sometimes the kids will come up with I'm sorry, I was too rough with your toy. And notice these are words I've already helped lay out there. Like sometimes when we're too rough with things, they break, right? So I'm sorry that I was too rough with your toy and it ended up breaking, right? Might come up, or it might be, I feel sad that you're sad. And that might be all that you get from words, right? And then the other child hopefully will have an opportunity to say, yeah, I am sad because this was my toy I really wanted to play with, and et cetera, right? And then you kind of help the kid who broke it, like stay in it, right? Just stay in it and say, maybe whisper to the in their ear, I think there's maybe something you could do to fix this. What do you think? And so for example, the child might say, well, how about we try and fix it? And if we can't fix it, I can save some money and buy you a new one, right? And so kind of working towards that solution. So it might come together as I'm sad that you're sad. When I was too rough with your toy, it broke. Um, how about I help you fix it, or save up some money to buy you a new one if it doesn't work. And that gives them an opportunity to repair. Now, sometimes the kid will just go over and offer a hug, and that's okay too, as long as the kid who's receiving the hug wants the hug. So you ask, can I give you a hug, right? Or can I share my treat with you, or whatever it might be, to try and repair. Okay, so just a few don'ts to avoid as we're wrapping up. Be careful to not get into any kind of blame game, like especially kids really like to deflect. So they'll say, I didn't start it, or I'm not the one who had a messed up toy to begin with, or that's not my toy, whatever it might be, or he made me do it, or something like that. Just gently redirect them to, oh, it sounds like when this happened, like just back to the matter of fact, it sounds like when you were playing, things did get rough and the toy did break, though, right? So let's talk more about that. Just kind of keep steering it back and don't get into the blame game with them. Don't say, yes, it is your fault and you should apologize. Just sort of like move on from that. The other thing I would suggest is to not use empty phrases. So again, discouraging them from saying sorry if they don't mean it yet. Like, sincerity is so much more important. One that kids can do a lot, that I've had to train children, like in my care, like from 12 to 48 children in my care, to really make sure that they take turns listening and speaking in a repair process. Because one of the most aggravating things, especially to the more injured party, is if they're starting to open up about the impact that the incident had. They're like, yeah, and this toy is something I really wanted to play with. And they're starting to say more. And then your child, who actually did more harm, interrupts them and doesn't let them speak and express their feelings. It turns out that, yes, not only does the child who was impacted need a chance to process and say what they need to say, but so does the kid who's going to apologize. Sometimes they need to process through a bit too. So either way, like, don't take shortcuts and interrupt them, and encourage them not to interrupt each other. It's all a part of the process for them to witness the other child's upset, at least some of it. And if it just seems too soon to be productive, maybe take a break and come back when folks do feel like they've come further along in either calming down or talking it through with a trusted adult or friend before they come and try the repair process. I almost always would have a little one-on-one time with each child before I brought them together, just for that reason. Not to shelter them from the process, but to help them kind of gather their thoughts and calm down so they feel like it'll be an effective process. Last but not least, try to help them not repeat the mistake. Like, I'm sorry is actually not the end of the conversation. The repair or the hug is not the end of the conversation. It's sort of the middle. And the follow-up is, well, is there anything we need to do differently next time? And really talk that through too. And so that's why my top tip is, don't try to do it all in one conversation, especially if there's any resistance to the process. Allow it to be maybe a 1, 2, or 3 stage conversation. I've absolutely had a 3-day repair process between 2 peers in a classroom before. And I'll tell you that the mom of the daughter who I helped, who was the most affected, came to me and she goes, my daughter really appreciates that you're not trying to rush her through this. So for example, they had the conflict. She felt teased about something she had no control over. He was only sort of apologizing, like, okay, yeah, sorry. And she didn't buy it. And I told her at the end of the day when she went home, I told her mom what happened, and I was like, hey, I want you to sit with that. And if in the morning you don't feel resolved yet, come tell me. And let's talk about what we want, what else is needed here. And that was so refreshing. I think kids oftentimes are not taken seriously enough about the grievances they have. And that can linger and build resentment and also break down trust between them and the adults. They're really relying on creating a just and safe container for them to, you know, learn and grow with other kids and with their family members. So let's go ahead and remember how we bring these all together. Remember some of these do's and don'ts, and make sure you practice. So just to finish, imagine you forgot to do your chores and I'm upset. How would you apologize to me? You might say something like, you know, oh my gosh, I forgot to do my chores. So just like admitting what happened. I know it's important to help around the house. So sorry I didn't get to it. I'll make sure to do them by the end of the day. Does that work for you? And I might say something like, yeah, that's really helpful. I also would like to have another conversation about how we can, stay on schedule with this. That feels good for both of us. Because I don't want you to feel like you're always getting in trouble for forgetting. So maybe there's a way we can help each other remember. But I do appreciate you fixing this right away. It means a lot to me. Okay, so great job, everybody. Teaching our kids effective apologies will help build stronger relationships. And let's continue to practice empathy, taking responsibility, modeling the behavior we want to see, helping kids with those big emotions when they come up, and allowing for the process to unfold, allowing there to be incremental progress, sometimes over several sessions. And it's a winning recipe. Hope this was valuable to you. If there's something that stood out, please put it in the comments, either here on Facebook, where it's streaming live, or on Zoom. And if you're listening to the recording in either place or on YouTube, please go ahead and drop in what was your biggest takeaway? What did you learn the most from this that you want to bring into your own family system and share with your kids? Would always love to hear that, or any follow-up questions you have that are particular to you and your family, or something that you're very curious about. Obviously, there's a lot of exceptions and nuances, so let's get into that conversation. This is just a quick tip format, but I love the coaching part of working through the nuances of your particular kid, a particular scenario that was maybe more complicated, and how to handle that. But this is a great foundation to work off of and iterate from. Happy to share with you today. Also, we are enrolling for our Family Foundations immersion. We're going to schools near and far, meeting great families, supporting them with strategies, also offering opportunities for folks to explore what it would be like to hop into some mentorship. So right now we're able to offer a complimentary parenting strategy session. That's something that's available. If you haven't had one in the last 6 months, feel free to sign up for this. I'll put it in the chat here on Zoom, and folks on Zoom, if you do have a takeaway to share with us, always love to hear, or a follow-up question, pop it in the chat. On Facebook, those who are listening, I'll also put a link here. And feel free to grab a spot on my calendar. I did just open some new ones, so that I can meet with families, and we'll wait till the end of the strategy session after we go over a strengths quiz, get you your answers to your most burning questions, draft up a learning plan for you, and then see if it's a fit for you to hop into our programs. And if not, no big deal. We would still have helped you, and that is the mission of the company. And my mission is to empower parents with effective tools so that you can move the needle forward in establishing lifelong relationships based on love, respect, and appreciation, and overall resilience for the family. So if that calls to you, I encourage you to go ahead and book a time to talk through those pieces. I'd love to have a chance to meet you one-on-one. All right, and with that, we're going to wrap up. Oh, Gianni says, hi, Gianni. Great tip about striving for sincerity instead of quick resolution. Yeah, I think there's something really encouraging to the kids and really settling to their nervous systems, and there's just a general sense of security when we're willing to, go through the sincere steps and make sure that we really are reaching a conclusion that's palatable to the kids, and to us, so that we have a way forward that feels like we're on solid ground and we're not sort of reopening wounds when the next thing happens, which can build over time to some really tough dynamics between siblings or parents and kids, or other caregivers, so, and friends, even cousins, etc. So yes, great. Glad that stood out to you, Gianni. Thank you for that. Any other feedback or questions, pop them in the chat. Otherwise, we're going to wrap up. Really good to have you here too, Adam. Welcome. Glad you're here. And we'll have a chance to continue connecting through the Facebook group and or through the session and the YouTube channel. So great to share this time with you. And if that's it, yep, that's it. All right. Have a good one and take care until next time. Lots of love. Bye for now.